Hey guys, with the recent class changes from Blizzard, this is the current meta rogue build. This build does it all: speed farming, endgame dungeon progression, and even works great on bosses. As you can see from this clip, it really excels in large trash pulls. You can just jump right into the middle of the pack, drop your traps, and go to work. Your cooldowns in large trash pulls are almost non-existent, and you're crowd controlling everything in your radius, so they deal almost no damage to you. Alright, so let's go through the skill tree and explain how this whole build works. We have our standard puncture into fundamental puncture, applies vulnerable, applies a slow, and it's a good filler. Coming down, we have our twisting blades, advanced twisting blades, the main attack skill. We have sturdy for close damage reduction, siphoning strikes for life regen, shadow step into methodical shadow step, mobility, and our get out of crowd control. We have our dash and into discipline dash, just mobility, applies slow, you dash through again, applies another daze. We have concussive, trick attacks, and rapid gambit here. Concussive will give you crit chance when you knock down an enemy. Trick attacks will give us a passive way to knock enemies down, and rapid gambit just gives you evade when you daze enemies. Poison trap into enhanced poison trap. This will be another way that we AoE knock down. This will also apply our poison, and it will also be how we apply our vulnerable most of the time. We have exploit and malice for more damage, picking up shadow crash and consuming shadows for energy regen as our death trap is killing our targets. We have deadly venom into debilitating toxins and alchemical advantage, a little damage reduction here, and some attack speed when we have those big clusters going. Then we're picking up innervation for more energy, picking up our trap mastery down here for some more crit. Death trap, obviously, this is a big part of the build. It helps really group those enemies in, and it feels really nice to use. Aftermath, when we use our death trap, it's just a big boost to our energy, so you're able to engage in the fight, drop your poison trap, dump all your twisting blades energy into them, and when you're out, you pop your death trap to get 75 more energy. You can pump a couple more twisting blades, and at that point I'm usually in my inner sight window, and that's usually how I start the fight. And if the boss doesn't move, he's standing in your trap, and then by the time that you're out of your inner sight, you usually have your trap back. And the way that you're getting your traps back is from exposure. Any enemy affected by your traps as you hit them has a chance to reduce the cooldown of your traps. This also applies another just passive crowd control, and that's really how we're going to stay alive, is crowd controlling all the enemies in the little cluster and just burning them down. Alright, so let's go over the aspects that we're using for this build. Aspect of might, damage reduction when you use your puncture. Aspect of disobedience, boosts your armor just passively as you're attacking. Mangler's aspect, just AoE daze, everything that you're hitting has a chance to just be dazed. Aspect of the protector, gives you a barrier every time you encounter an elite, every 30 seconds. The Ravager's aspect gives you 2 charges of shadow step. This is very key to 1, mobility, and 2, getting out of stuns and ground controls. I personally run the accelerating aspect on my two-handed bow. I prefer it because I think it does more boss damage and does better single target, and when you're just able to sit there and tunnel, this scales really well. It scales your damage up, but not only that, the more attacks that you're doing procs all of your lucky hit effects more often. It means that you're hitting more crits, so your siphoning strikes is healing more, and it means you're getting more cooldown reduction from your twisting blades. Moving on to your neck, this is where I put my Blade Dancer's aspect, because this I do think is probably your next best. It is probably your biggest increase in damage. The only argument I would say, and I would put my Blade Dancer's aspect on my two-handed weapon for a farming build. I do think that this is better when you're trying to make the most out of every twisting blades that you put out, but I'm aiming for more progression in endgame and pushing content that's more difficult, so things don't just die immediately. So this is how I'm choosing to do it. I'll eventually have my blade dancers on my bow for speed farming, just really easy things, trying to make sure that I'm one-shotting everything. Moving on to the first ring. This gives you more regen when you kill a vulnerable. This is really nice to have. Lets you go from monster to monster and just have more energy as you're going. You don't really need this when you're doing really end game progression stuff. You can switch this with any other damage aspect, and that'll be just fine. Right now I'm just running this because it's really good for speed content. The blast trappers aspect is going to be how you apply your vulnerable. Any enemy affected by your traps as you're hitting them just has a chance to be vulnerable. The first weapon here is going to have the edge masters on it. Big increase to our damage. During an inner sight window, this is just a flat 19% increase on your damage. Be very good for bursting and just all around damage increase. And then you won't have this most likely, but this is what you're looking for. If I didn't have this, I would just be running the smiting aspect, which gives you crit chance to injured enemies and increased crowd control duration. You're mainly using that for the crowd control duration, which is more defense. You know, all these little micro CCs that we're doing just extends the duration on all of those. But that's the build I've been running and seems to be the main meta build right now for rogues. Build planners and Paragon routes are in the description below. If you have any questions on the build, stop by my Twitch stream. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Catch you guys next time.